Good afternoon to Dr. Kumar and my fellow classmates. My name is Ng Yen Chi and I'm going to present about the topic dealing with various conflicts in the workplace. So, conflict is defined in a wide range of ways, and it can be an expression of hostility, negative attitudes, antagonism, aggression, rivalry, and misunderstanding. It is also involves situations where contradictory or irreconcilable interests take place between two opposing groups. Any type of conflicts which occurs within a workplace or among workers or managers are considered as workplace conflict, and it can potentially occur during out-of-work hours. Workplace conflict usually arises when there is a disagreement between two conflict parties which they have different opinions, different obligations, and different goals and so on. It is a type of conflict that will disrupt the stability and harmony of relationship between each individual within an organization. If the conflict is managed properly with appropriate strategies, it can offer positive value for an organization in order to ensure an effective performance, such as performance improvement and facilitation of change. However, if the conflict is not managed strategically, it will bring negative consequences to the organization, such as low quality staff, less communication between employees and managers, and so on. Sources of workplace conflict. The workplace conflict stems from few sources such as conflict within personnel that includes intrapersonal and interpersonal, where conflicts occurs between group which includes intragroup and intergroup. And lastly, conflict that occurs within an organization which are intra-organizational and inter-organizational conflicts. Intrapersonal conflict is a type of psychological conflict that happens within an individual. It takes place and occurs in the person's mind involving the individual's thoughts, values, principles, and emotions, and there are no other parties involved in making the decision. The example of intrapersonal conflict in the workplace is to decide whether to rest at home or go to work when feeling not well. Next, interpersonal conflict occurs from four causes. The first cause, which is personal difference, means it is not possible to like everyone at workplace because everybody is different. Next, role incompatibility. It stems from the different obligations and functions between each department in an organization. The next cause is information deficiency, which means if there is an imbalance in access to information, it can trigger conflictual relationship between individuals. Environmental stress is the last cause of interpersonal conflict, which occurs when the organization had too much of downsizing, re-engineering, and changes for past decade, where employees feel that they are under threat on retaining their current job. Then, intragroup conflict is the interpersonal conflict that arises within a group. The most common conflict is by dividing employees into specific teams or departments. The disagreement and misunderstanding between members will occur. Moreover, intergroup conflict exists within different formal group and informal groups in an organization, and they deal with differences and conflicts at the same time. It also means the goals between groups are different, where they cannot meet each other's needs. For instance, employee wants to earn as much money as possible, while employers want labor to be as cheap as possible. Intra-organizational conflict arises when there are disagreements and misunderstanding within individuals, work teams, and other groups inside an organization. Lastly, inter-organizational conflict occurs between two or more organizations, for example, among competitors or collaborators with different views on how to approach the collaboration. Types and forms of workplace conflict. In relation to the 6 sources of conflict in an organization, it occurs types and forms of workplace conflict. There are 3 main types of workplace conflict, which are task conflict, relationship conflict, and process conflict. Task conflict is also known as cognitive conflict. It focuses on the content of the task on hand and how conflict will arise from group members. They have disagreements about how the task should be performed, which includes differences in their ideas, viewpoint, and opinions. Relationship conflicts also refer as emotional or affective conflict. It means incompatibilities of interpersonal among group members, which typically result from personality clashes and negative emotional interactions between two or more group members. While process conflict arises from disagreements about the way and how to proceed to accomplish the task, it includes the conflict in the actual process and allocation of resources for the task. Generally, conflict in an organization is appeared in many different types and forms that can lead to a wide variety of individual and collective behaviors. Violent acts, which are an extreme form of workplace conflict, may occur. For instance, vandalism or sabotage towards individuals may happen. It also includes the starting of spreading vindictive rumors, gossip negatively about colleagues and employers, or uses of informal communication and impolite words to other people. Many other social civilities like ethnic and sexual harassment, verbal abuse, discrimination, bullying, and other violent behaviors directed at organizational members or customers are also an extreme form of conflict. Next, let's move on to workplace conflicts handling strategies. There are 5 important handling strategies for workplace conflicts, which are accommodation, avoidance, integration, competition, and compromise. Accommodation is a strategy that subjugates and sacrifices own wishes to allow other parties to achieve what they want from the conflict situation, as to remain the harmony and unity of relationship between each individual within workplace. It is also affected by the fear of the arising of negative consequences if the other parties are not allowed to have their way. The result of this strategy is I lose, you win, because an individual had to give up what he or she wanted in order to satisfy opposing party. Next, avoidance style reflects a behavior to ignore or refuse the conflict that often refers as to show low concern for either own wishes or the other party's interests. The individual neither cares about his own goals or other party's interests. The result of this strategy is I lose, you lose, because there is nothing to be done about the conflict. Integration style refers to the balance between both parties, which is by giving an equal recognition to both parties' need in order to settle the conflict. The interests of both parties were concerned because if one party is not being satisfied, it might become the starting point of future conflict. It requires both parties to cooperate with each other to find an agreeable solution to the problem. The result of this style is I win, you win, because both parties are willing to work together. Next, competition style. It is only care about winning in a conflict. In this strategy, there is no considerations of other parties' interests or other components. It simply just focus on self-interest in order to become the winner of the conflict. This is a form of fighting because either one of the conflict parties must win. The result of this strategy is either I win, you lose, or I lose, you win. Lastly, compromise style. This style refers to both parties give up part of what they desire in order to settle the conflict. This results to I win some, you win some in the conflict situation because both parties are willing to give a little. It is more suitable for the situation where it needs a temporary strategy to resolve the conflict or when both parties have equally important goals. Consequences of workplace conflicts. There are negative and positive consequences of workplace conflicts. If the workplace conflicts are not solved in an appropriate way, there will be negative consequences, but if the conflicts are managed effectively, there will be positive outcomes. The first negative consequences is it will lead to autocratic leadership because conflict is viewed as unwillingness to compromise and it is a direct challenge to authority, so it leads towards more autocratic in management style that will eliminate the desire and opportunity to compromise between individuals. Next, low quality staff can occur. Employees will gradually become unmotivated to work as they will feel frustrated because of conflict. The increase of stress level and low moral behavior will arise between individuals, so they will remain in such organization until something better comes along. Then, workplace conflict will cause less communication. When individuals are in conflict, they will be more likely to avoid communicating with each other, and this will decrease the quality and level of communication. This can be normally seen in any industrial dispute or even family dispute. There are also consequences such as the occurrence of strong subgroups with negative behaviors such as bullying toward other groups or individuals. Oppositely, if workplace conflict is solved effectively, it will offer positive outcomes. Productivity of work and performance of employees can be improved because the individuals are more motivated to work, and this will also lead to increase in loyalty of employees. Trust between each individual can also be built because the conflict is decreased and each individual begins to trust each other. Lastly, unity and harmony in an organization can be maintained. In conclusion, there are 6 main sources of workplace conflict, which are intrapersonal, interpersonal, intragroup, intergroup, intra-organizational, and interorganizational conflict, which can lead to different types and forms of conflict in workplace, such as task, relationship, and process conflicts. To resolve the conflicts, there are also 5 important handling strategies, which include accommodation, avoidance, integration, competition, and compromise style strategy. If the workplace conflict is not handled properly, there will be negative consequences like autocratic leadership, less communication, and low quality staff. In opposite, if the conflicts were managed earlier with appropriate strategies, positive outcomes such as increased productivity of work, a happy culture of workplace, loyalty of employees, and improved performance in an organization can be sustained because employees are more motivated to work. Thank you.